Welcome to the Athletic Performance Factory in Highland, as it is time for the RSN Tailgate Show. Week 10 here in the region. That means it's time for the state tournament. Leo Stauder, happy to be with you alongside Matt Skura. Matt, it is finally that time of the year. We're getting to late October. The regular season is out of the way, and now it's time for the postseason. And this is what you do it all for, those practices in the summer, those early games in September and October to get to play in these late season games and hopefully keep that season going by a few extra weeks.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Everybody starts out fresh, 0-0 record, so that 0-9 season or that 1-8 season, that's out the door now. Everything matters now for these teams.
And we were talking a little bit about it on our broadcast last week with Jay Simmons. He talked about the short-term goals. You want to try to get a winning regular season, maybe a conference title, and then now in the postseason, you get another short-term goal. Win your sectional semifinal game, then the sectional championship. Just the checklist keeps growing. Now we've gotten to the postseason, and these teams are trying to take care of step one this evening.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's going to be a very interesting evening tonight here on first round of sectionals.
And as we get rolling into it, let's start with Class 1A, Sectional 41. Taking a look at North Judson, the Blue Jays facing the South Central Satellites. This is a North Judson team, record 7-2 on the year. Their season was bookended with losses week 1 and week 9. They had a strong 7-game win streak in the middle of those two losses, trying to start things off on a high note against the Satellites.
Oh, yeah. North Judson's looking to make another deep run into the playoffs again this year. They're 4-time defending sectional champs, averaging about 240 yards rushing a game, 30 points a game on offense. They should keep it rolling against an 0-9 Satellites team.
So the winner of that game will face the winner of the LaVille Culver Community matchup in that one, a 5-4 LaVille team and a 3-6 Cavaliers team. So both of those teams trying to battle it out and face what could be a good North Judson team, but they got to take care of business week 1. You have to avoid falling into the trap game per se against the 0-9 team because, as you mentioned, everybody's got the same record now in the postseason.
Yeah, North Judson's looking to clean house with South Central here, and then they have a home field matchup against the LaVille Culver winner, which on paper looks like LaVille. LaVille played Whiting last week and beat them pretty handily.
As taking a look at the next sectional matchup, we have Bowman Academy Eagles versus the North Newton Spartans. This should be an intriguing matchup. Both teams 5-4, and they did face in the regular season in Week 7. The Eagles took the win 40-14 in that one, but then getting that rematch now in Week 10, it's hard to beat a team twice in the year, especially that first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, it is. The only disadvantage I think North Newton would have right here is just a long drive up to north side of Gary for the for the road trip.
Right. That could definitely be a factor as well, as both teams with that identical record, but it's a Bowman team that has used 4 different quarterbacks this season, but really has established the ground game. So when you get into October, November, that importance of the run game really becomes that much more key as well.
Yeah, you want to be the more physical team, dominate the run game, and then you can scatter in the pass off of that with play action passes and things like that, which they're going to need to defeat North Newton and then roll on to play the winner of West Central South Newton next week.
So matching the winner of that game gets the winner of the Trojans and the Rebels. West Central 8-1 on the year, 5-1 in conference. North Newton 3-6. So another tough matchup as two teams that also met each other in the regular season. West Central took care of business that time in Week 6 with a 76-7 win. So South Newton will certainly have their work cut out for them against the Trojans.
Yeah, this sectional played out really well with the draw where the top 2 teams on paper are on opposite ends of the bracket.
So then trying to avoid any spoilers. And as you were kind of talking about before we went on here, your philosophy as a coach where when you know there's a talented sectional, if you want that tough matchup in the first round or the second round, how do you necessarily prepare for that with that luck of the draw?
With the luck of the draw, it is what it is, but as a sportscaster or the press, we always want the best matchups as we go later on for championships, for a trophy or something like that. But sometimes as a coach, you want to play the better teams a little bit earlier so you can have a breather possibly with a lesser opponent in sectional. It's not to take anything away from the lesser opponent, but you're preparing, but you can kind of think ahead a little bit too.
You're going to have to see that top team at some point, so why not face them earlier and then try to build off of that. As we move into 2A, we will see an intriguing matchups in sectional 33 with the Wheeler Bearcats facing the Lake Station Eagles. The Wheeler, number 8 in our RSN poll. The winner of that one gets in Drain, so it doesn't get any easier for these two teams. Wheeler 7-1, Lake Station 6-3.
Yeah, they both these teams, whoever comes out of this game on top is going to have a tough road to get to the sectional championship. Lake Station's last sectional title was in 1998. So it'll be interesting for them. Lake Station's averaging about 31.5 points a game. Wheeler about almost 39 points a game. So both teams can put up a lot of points. Lake Station, I think, is probably as a team is leading the area in rushing. With over 300 yards a game rushing.
Yeah, we see their quarterback, David Parker, with 14 rush TDs this season, 1,200 yards on the ground. And then we look at the Wheeler offense as well. Levi Murray, the sophomore running back, one of the top rushers in the area, 18 touchdowns on the ground. We saw Logan Fox really step up last week, being able to kind of go dual threat a little bit when called upon, both getting plays done in the air and then was able to pick up a few rushes on scrambles. So this could be a Wheeler offense that could be dynamic as things progress too.
Oh, yeah, that's what's made Wheeler so dynamic over the past few years with their offense and putting up points is their ability to pass and run. And, their defense is also very stout this year. I mean, other than the Griffith game giving up 35 points, I think they've pretty much dominated everybody all year long. Lake Station is not much of a passing team, but their defense has 20 sacks on the year, 19.5 sacks on the year. So they can get pressure on the quarterback, which, with the looming matchup against Andrean could be trouble for Andrean's passing team.
Yeah, and we even saw that last week against Griffith. Wheeler was really hanging in there. The final score was maybe a little bit misleading in that loss to the Panthers, as Wheeler gave it their all for most of that game, and then just kind of the Panthers were able to separate things in the fourth quarter. But that was a good offense they went against, and that's the type of Week 9 matchup that can really then prepare you for those tough matchups in the postseason.
Yeah, you get a team like Griffith that can throw the ball all over the field and be a dominant running force with the size of their offensive line and the strength and the physicality of that team. Now you're coming into Lake Station, who's a tough, gritty team that very, very physical. They might get a few extra penalties that they don't need, but they're being physical in that process, trying to dominate, enforce their will on you.
As we move to our next game, we have the Rensselaer Central Bombers taking on the Boone Grove Wolves. Boone Grove, a team that fell to Wheeler in the postseason last year. The winner of this matchup gets the winner of Bremen versus Whiting. So we see the 4-4 Bombers the 7-2 Bombers against the 4-4 Wolves. The Boone Grove Wolves trying to take on a tough opponent in the Bombers.
Yeah, and it's been an up and down season for Boone Grove. Like early on in the year, we thought, you didn't know if they were going to score a touchdown,
right?
The way they were playing, but they, the kids hung in there. They fought tough. They got a few wins under their belt, confidence built. So it's all up to what Boone Grove team's going to show up for this game.
Yeah, Sal Montez with 14 rush touchdowns on the year for Boone Grove, really helping carry that team as we then progress into 3A as things continue to move along here. Sectional 25, the John Glenn Falcons hosting the Calumet Warriors. Calumet has been an intriguing team this season as they're on a 3-game losing streak, 5-4, but they really gave Wheeler their all, fell in the final minute to the Bearcats. This is a Calumet team that's maybe a play here or play there away from maybe having 6 wins or more on the season, with how close they were able to keep things against Wheeler.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, that Wheeler game kind of deflated them a little bit, because then they came in. Not to say they weren't prepared against Griffith, but Griffith just blitzed them early and big, and then Westside came in and took care of them. So Calumet's looking for some revenge, get back on the board again. Fresh start. These kids should be raring to go. They got a great draw. They got the possibility of playing for a sectional championship here. With the draw that came out for them. They couldn't ask for anything better.
And they'll be facing the winner. The winner of this game will face the winner of the Mishawaka Marion Knights versus the River Forest Ingots. River Forest 4-5 on the year. They're another team that 4-5 record. They faced some tougher teams in the region that we've seen too. And you flip a couple of those games, who knows what could happen there? As the Knights on a 6-game losing streak. So we'll see what that matchup has in store for us as well.
Yeah, River Forest coming in. They're coming in on a high. They just won their rivalry game, which is a huge game for them, beating Lake Station. Beating them pretty handily. It was a back-and-forth game, a lot of penalties, but they took over the game in the second half. And Mishawaka Marion, they play in a tough I believe it's NIC.
Yes.
With all the South Bend schools, Penn, South Bend St. Joe is killing everybody. Penn's destroying everybody. Mishawaka is tough, so they play Elkhart. I mean, they play every school they play is bigger than they.
Yeah. That's what I feel like the intriguing thing about a lot of these matchups is the records could be deceiving depending on who you played. And when you face kind of that gauntlet of a schedule, the record may not be where you want it to be at the end of the year, but those matchups could potentially prepare you. It's what you make out of it. Do you hang your head after facing a tough Penn team, or do you learn from that? And then when you face a team like River Forest, you're more battle tested, and it's all about what you make of those tough games against some maybe bigger schools in your conference.
Yeah, and you're right. It is what you make of it, and let's see if they can come in. Both teams are averaging about the same amount of points, giving up the same amount of points, so it should be a battle over there.
Moving to the next part of that 3A slate, we have the number 4 ranked in our RSN poll, the Griffith Panthers, taking on the Bishop Knoll Warriors. Knoll 2-7 on the year, Griffith 8-1. This is a Griffith team with that big win against Wheeler last week, 6 in a row to end the regular season. They won the Greater South Shore Conference South title, and with that authoritative 34-10 win over Wheeler, the Panthers, they seem to be a team that could beat you in a lot of different ways and balance on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and it all starts with their big offensive line and big defensive line. They're physical, they're imposing, and they try to enforce their will on you. It may not happen early in the game, but like last week against Wheeler, the one running back ran for over 200 yards in the second half alone.
Yeah, Nealon, and they mixed in him and Tedder, the 2 running backs. That was a really dynamic
I believe he's a transfer from Lake Central too, isn't he?
I believe so, yeah. And then even their quarterback, Bouillon, was able to mix in a lot through the air. So this is a balanced Griffith squad. So Bishop Knoll is going to have their hands full facing the Panthers. And where it gets intriguing then as the winner of that Griffith Knoll game gets the winner of Knox and Jimtown. And it feels like it's been something we've been talking about all season with Knox, with the leading scorer in the state, Miles McLaughlin, with 48 touchdowns on the ground, 3,134 yards. We're yet to see who in Indiana can find the way to stop him on the ground this season. With the Redskins 9-0 on the year, 5-0 in conference, that could be you don't want to look ahead to the next round, but whoever could see them in the second round, that winner of the Knox Jimtown game.
Oh yeah, I mean Knox beat Jimtown in Week 7, 56-13. Knox is a 3-time defending sectional champ. Miles McLaughlin's going after all sorts of records in the state, career records, single season records, and it's great to see something like that happening where, you get to look forward to seeing somebody possibly break a record, be part of history, witness history. McLaughlin's sitting at 3,100 yards rushing, 3,134 for the season, 3,566 is a single season record.
Yeah.
He's closing in on career points scored, single season rushing record, career rushing record, total yards for career, touchdowns in the season. Pretty much any kind of rushing record you can think of, he's closing in on.
Just another day in the office for Miles McLaughlin with that rushing attack, and so potentially that matchup against Griffith in the next round could be very exciting. But again, both teams want to keep their sights set on their matchup at hand as, again, we move deeper into the playoff picture here. The Class 4A Sectional 17 with Hanover Central against Lowell. The Red Devils 7-2 on the year, 5-1 in the Northwest Crossroads Conference. Hanover 4-5, 3-3 in conference play. The Red Devils won 35-20 back in Week 4. So another rematch from a conference game. So these are two teams that know each other well, and Red Devils trying to keep things rolling, and the Wildcats looking for revenge.
Yeah, Lowell won in Week 4, but, you're 6 weeks down the road. Everybody's a different team now. And, what Lowell needs to do is Lowell needs to be able to mix the passing with the run and be able to throw the ball a little bit more to progress into the playoffs and go deep into the playoffs and possibly get to the state championship. You just can't rely on the rush and be solely a rushing team. You'll get shut down, as we saw when they played Andrea.
Yeah, we see Lowell, number 5 in our RSN poll, so another team with some high accolades as the season goes on. The winner of that game will get the winner of Highland versus East Chicago Central. The Cardinals 3-6 on the year, while the Trojans 2-7 East Chicago's been led by Darian Morris, their senior quarterback, with over 1,500 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns. So the Cardinals trying to take care of things against a Highland team that took a very tough loss last week against Hobart. So trying to see how they can bounce back from that.
Yeah, East Chicago's a dangerous team. Quarterback rushing for 1,500 yards, and don't let that record deceive you. 3-6.
Right.
You're coming in. They're going to give Highland everything they got, and if they pull out the win against Lowell, it looks like possibly they'll be at home again next week against Lowell. So Lowell will have to make the trek up to East Chicago if Lowell beats Hanover Central. Either one of them, it's going to be a nice drive up to East Chicago.
Definitely something to start to take into consideration as the season progresses. The Trojans trying to snap a streak where they've also been shut out in their last 3 games. So a lot to play for here in that matchup. And as we look at the next part of the bracket, Kankakee Valley Cougars facing the West Side Cougars. Kankakee Valley, a team that's 1-8 on the year, 1-3 in conference play, while West Side 4-4 on the year. They've won their last 2 to round out the regular season, 1-3 in conference play. So this is a Kankakee Valley team we saw last season was able to hang in there with Hobart for about 3 quarters, and then the Brickies distanced themselves, but kind of falling upon some rougher times this year at 1-8. But West Side trying to take care of business there against the Cougars.
Yeah, Kankakee Valley, had a rough season, struggled a little bit, but you can turn it all around here. You get a win here, things are looking up, then you get a second-round matchup of possibly Hobart or New Prairie. Who knows what could happen in that game. And even if you fall in one of those games, if you get at least one playoff win, you got something to look forward to for next year and build on for the next year.
Especially for those sophomores or the juniors, those guys that know what it takes to win in the playoffs. And, you can turn that into something positive for the next year. And the winner of the Kankakee Valley West Side game will face the winner of a matchup we've become very accustomed to seeing these last 3 years. The New Prairie Cougars versus the Hobart Brickies. Hobart number 6 in our RSN poll. Hobart has fallen to New Prairie the last 3 years in the postseason. Last year was a heartbreaker in the very last minutes. New Prairie ran a trick play basically off a quarterback sneak on a 2-point conversion to beat the Brickies. So New Prairie this year 3-6, Hobart 7-2. The Brickies probably remember that game and are looking for a little bit of revenge tonight.
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely a revenge game between these 2 teams. They've won the last 6 sectional championships, with New Prairie winning 5 out of the last 6. Hobart getting the last one in 2020. But it's a different Hobart team. It's a different New Prairie team. So Hobart's got the record-wise, on paper, Hobart's a better team. But again, playoff time, you never know what happens.
Right.
They got New Prairie has the experience. They lost their head coach, but
they have players that were on those teams the last couple of years that were able to go into the Brickyard and get the win. So sometimes that experience could matter a lot. As you look at both of these teams, have the mobile quarterbacks. Reed Robinson for the Cougars, 22 touchdowns on the ground this year. And then Alex Tatum for the Brickies with 9 touchdowns both on the ground and then 9 through the air. So seeing which signal caller can lead that offense, keep things under control, and avoid the turnovers and try to get the win in this playoff matchup.
Yeah, turnovers are going to be a big difference in this game. Hobart's defense has forced 19 turnovers this year, which that's a good clip right there. Almost 2 a game. And that's huge right there. That's 14-point difference if you can score.
Definitely turn some of those turnovers into points. So as we kind of round out the group of games from this evening, what are maybe a matchup or 2 that stands out to you that you're most intrigued to see how this progresses tonight? Because maybe some of these we have a 7-2 team against a 1-8 team, but some of these teams where the records are a little closer that we could see some really close matchups. What sticks out to you when you look at the playoffs?
The Lowell-Hanover matchup is going to be an intriguing one. That's budding into could be a very good rivalry there with there's 2 schools separated by maybe 8-9 miles. Just straight shot down 41. The Highland East Chicago matchup is going to be a good one. New Prairie Hobart. There's a lot to look at. Unfortunately, you don't get to see some of the high-powered matchups, but they're intriguing matchups on paper. Whether or not they pan out that way on the field, it's yet to be seen.
Right. This is the important first step of that journey as you're trying to finish your season in Indianapolis. Can you take care of business week one, avoid those miscues? You think about the nerves or the different factors at play for players who maybe haven't been a starter in a postseason game. There's a lot to kind of get out of the way tonight in that first game and what's hopefully the first of many.
Yeah, you're at the point now where any time could be your last play.
Right.
As opposed to, we got week 2, we got week 3, we got week 4. Now it's you win or you go home.
And trying to make sure maybe some of those mistakes that were prevalent in the early season, that you were able to get those out of your system now where you avoided those mistakes becoming a trend. And hopefully now you're playing your best football. Now as we're in late October, switching to November soon, that everybody's peaking at the right time, hopefully around the region.
Yeah, there's several teams that I've watched throughout the season. I'm sure you have too, where penalties have killed them in games. Key plays have killed them in games. Griffith's probably 2 or 3 plays. The score against Lowell didn't indicate it, but they were probably 2 or 3 plays away from it being a completely different ball game.
Right.
Pass interference plays. If teams can cut down on the penalties and the flags that they get, it'll be a completely different ball game for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, something like that could be the difference between winning or losing in a game tonight, where there's those little things that add up. You don't want to be that to be the reason. Penalties, things within your control, the reason your season comes to an early end.
Right. Yeah, you always want to avoid all that stuff. Everybody wants to, but it happens sometimes. You get overzealous with things like that. But just the simple ones like the false starts, the grabbing of the face mask, holding you can call holding on every play, so that pass interference. I honestly would rather give up a pass interference than give up a touchdown pass. Especially in high school when it's a 15-yard penalty as opposed to a spot foul. But just the mental mistakes. If you can get rid of the mental mistakes, your team's going to be better off, and you're going to have a better chance of winning the game.
So we will have plenty of coverage here at the Region Sports Network this evening. We'll be here through the RSN zone again this evening, and then we'll have 2 broadcasts coming up, some great crews, some great coverage for all that. So it's playoff season. It's one of the best times of the year of the sports calendar, and we'll be bringing you all the coverage. So be sure to keep things locked in all evening long on the Region Sports